Hi, I'm Susan Rutledge, author of Creating Pattern Brushes in Adobe Illustrator, here today with another tutorial on how to make a pattern brush. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and check my book out on Amazon.com. In this video, I'll show you how to use and to edit the auto-generated corner tiles that Adobe Illustrator places in every pattern brush that is drug into the brushes panel, as long as you're using Illustrator CC or a newer version. I've created for the first example a striped side tile, and it already has its pattern brush. I'll get the rectangle tool, keyboard shortcut M, and drag out a rectangle. And then I'll click on the pattern brush, and I'll get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and I'll deselect. All right, now I have not made a corner tile for this pattern brush. This is auto-generated by Illustrator, and it looks really cool. But let's look at the other options that are available. I'm going to double click on the pattern brush. This brings up the pattern brush options dialog box, and there are 5 tile bins here. The first one belongs to the outer corner tile. So I'm going to click here right next to this little preview, and you can see that the one that is selected now is the auto sliced option. Let's look at the auto centered option, and that looks nice as well. And we have auto between option. That's another good looking one. Then the last one would be auto overlap, and I'll click OK. And I think that's my least favorite, but you've seen the 4 different options, and you can select whichever one you want for your corner tile. I suggest that you always go and at least look at the auto-generated corners before you go to the time and effort of creating one of your own. Okay, let's move on to the next example. I'm going to actually move our rectangle onto this layer here. Okay, then I'll hide this side tile, and I'll open up the next example, and I'll move to the brushes panel, and I'll select the rectangle and apply this pattern brush. Now in this pattern brush, I can see right away that there's a little notch here in this square, and there's a line across the center, and that would be something that we would have to edit. But let's look at our other options. I'll double click on the pattern brush. The one we're looking at is the auto sliced version, and it would be a really tough one to edit because this option and auto overlap both have clipping paths. And let's look at the auto centered option. And that one with a little editing might be cool. Let's see the other one. Auto between and apply. So I don't care for this one as much, and if we edited it, we would have double work to do. So I'm going to go back to the first one, that auto centered option, and apply to strokes. And I'm going to delete our pattern brush rectangle here, and I'm going to just come over to the brushes panel, and I'll select this pattern brush. I'm holding my mouse down, and I'm just dragging it onto the artboard, and that brings the tiles out of the pattern brush and onto the artboard. I'll select both of these and ungroup them, Shift Command G, and then I'm going to go into the layers panel, and I want to keep track of what I have here. So this is the side tile, and I'm going to name that side tile, and then I'll select the corner, and I'm just double clicking on the name group so that I can type here. So I'll put corner tile, and now I'll move the side tile out of the way, and I'm going to twirl down on the corner tile, and I want to see all of these different objects. What I'd like to do is delete this yellow path, and so I'll select it, and I'll just press the delete key, and it's gone. Next, I'm going to click on that purple path, and I'll come over on the left toolbar. I'll get the delete anchor point tool, and that's keyboard shortcut minus, and I'm going to click on the little anchor that's causing that to indent here. And now that is straight and it is more consistent with our side tile. I'll get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V. Now I'm going to lock the objects that I'm not going to work on because I am going to need to really be moving around with this pointed yellow object. So I'm going to select it and I'll get the direct selection tool, keyboard shortcut A, and I'm going to select the anchor points and I'm going to move them up out of sight, and I'm going to try to maintain the lines in that upper part. Be real careful how I drag those out and release my mouse. Okay, I'm going to unlock these layers and I want to get the circle from the side tile, so I'll twirl down and I'll select that ellipse, and I'm going to hold down my option key and just drag it onto the artboard. And then I need to move it from the side tile group to the corner group, so I'm just going to drag it up and place it on top of the purple layer. And then I can grab it and drag it over into place on my corner tile and release my mouse. Now I'm going to select all of these objects and I'm going to group them using the keyboard shortcut Command G. I'll open up the brushes panel and I'm going to drag the edited corner tile into the brushes panel. I'll hold the option key down and I'll drop it into that first tile bin and release my mouse, and I'll say OK. And then let's move these up and out of the way. I'll get the rectangle tool, keyboard shortcut M, and drag out a rectangle. I'll remove the color fill and I'll go to the brushes panel and click on our pattern brush. And our edited corner tile matches really nicely with the side tile. It's seamless and I'm really pleased with it. It would have taken me a lot longer if I had started from scratch. So I'm pretty happy that Illustrator had a corner tile that I could work with. Okay, I have one more example. So I'm going to delete these tiles here and then I'll move into the layers panel and I'm going to hide the red box side tile and open up the multicolor one. I'll select our rectangle and I'll go to the brushes panel and I'm going to apply this pattern brush. This corner tile is different than the last example because it doesn't come to a point in the corner. It rounds the corners, and what that means is it's taller than the side tile. Now that's not a problem in and of itself. However, the bounding box is not the same size when you pull it out of the brushes panel. So anytime you are editing an auto-generated corner tile and it's taller than the side tile, you have to remove the side tile bounding box and add a new one that's the same height. Let me show you how we do that. I'll delete our pattern brush rectangle here. I'm going to pull our pattern brush out of the brushes panel and drag it onto the artboard. I'll select these and ungroup them with the keyboard shortcut Shift Command G. Now I'm going to open the layers panel, and this is our side tile. I'll name it. And this is our corner tile, so we'll name it. Okay, now on the corner tile, what I'm going to do is I'll twirl down here and I want to delete this little section right here. I'm going to select it in the layers panel. I'll hold down my shift key, and those are the three items that I want to remove, so I'll just press my delete key and they're gone. Now I want to add back in this side tiles design with the purple and the orange and the black circle. So I'll twirl down the side tile and I'll select the black ellipse and then hold my shift key down and select the compound path and the ellipse, and then I'll hold my option key down and drag a copy of these onto the artboard. Now the copy's on the artboard, but the objects are actually still in the side tile group. So I'm going to select each one of these. I am holding down my shift key and I'm going to drag them into the corner tile. And I want them to be in the top layers, so I'll drop them here. And then I'm going to rotate these objects. I'll use the rotate tool, keyboard shortcut R, hold my shift key down, and rotate 45 degrees. I'm going to get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and I'm going to drag my design into the corner tile, and I'm going to have it just slightly overlap the green here so that it's consistent with my side tile. And I am pretty happy with that, so I'm just going to leave it there, and I will select all of these together and I'll group them using the keyboard shortcut Command G. I'll select both of these tiles and move over to the Properties panel and press Vertical Align Top. I'm going to have to create a bounding box that is exactly the same height as our corner tile. So I'm going to deselect both of these, and I'm going to select just the side tile and go into the Layers panel. And under the side tile, we have the bounding box that was created in the pattern brush, and we need to delete that. So I'll select just the bounding box and I'll press the delete key. Now we're going to go into the outline viewing mode, keyboard shortcut Command Y, and I'm going to get the rectangle tool, keyboard shortcut M. I'll open up the properties panel, make sure there is no fill, no stroke, and I'll start in the top left anchor, and I'm going to drag to the right, but I'm also going to match the bottom up with the bottom of the corner tile, and I'll release my mouse. Now let's come to the Layers panel, and the bounding box was placed at the top of these layers. It needs to be at the very bottom of the side tile, so I'm just going to click on it and drag it down. When you have multiple layers in the Layers panel, it's really best to drag the bounding box to the bottom rather than using the keyboard shortcuts. So now I'll get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and I'm going to select all of the objects in the bounding box, and I'll group them using the keyboard shortcut Command G. Now let's go back into the preview mode, keyboard shortcut Command Y, and I'm going to move these up and out of the way, and then I'll open up the brushes panel. The first thing that we'll do is we're going to add our edited corner tile in. I'll hold the Option key down and drag it into that first bin and release my mouse, and I'll say OK, and then I'm going to go ahead and get the rectangle tool, keyboard shortcut M, and drag out a rectangle and apply this pattern brush. And you can see that the way it's created right now, the corner tile is not fitting, and that's because I have not yet drug in our edited side tile. So I'm going to get the selection tool, and I'll grab this side tile which has the new bounding box on it. I'll hold the Option key down, and I'm going to drag this to the second bin and release my mouse. And now I'll say OK and apply to strokes. And this time my pattern brush is seamless because I made sure that the bounding boxes were both the same size. Also, notice that I matched up the colors and the designs, because if I had drawn the bounding box to add that extra space from the top, these would have not matched. So now you know how to apply and edit auto-generated corner tiles. In the next video, I'll show you how to create an inner corner tile. It's very similar to the outer corner tiles, but with one huge difference. So join me soon for another video on creating pattern brushes in Adobe Illustrator. Thanks for watching. Bye now.